Have you ever stood by the ocean watching the waves crash ashore and wondered where all that water is going? It's a powerful, rhythmic sight, a constant ebb and flow. But did you know that this massive shifting of water is controlled by something hundreds of thousands of miles away? That's right. The moon, our silent neighbor in the night sky, is the conductor of this oceanic orchestra. It feels almost like magic. The same body that lights up our nights tells the oceans when to rise and when to fall, creating a pulse that's beaten for billions of years, a secret rhythm that connects us to the cosmos. This connection isn't just a beautiful thought, it's a powerful force of nature with a direct impact on our lives, especially for those who love to cast a line and wait for that telltale tug. Understanding this cosmic dance is step one to becoming a great angler. It's about more than having the right bait or the fanciest rod and reel. It's about knowing the environment, reading its signals, and working with nature instead of against it. Think of it as learning the ocean's language. Let's start with the big question. How can the moon so far away possibly move the Earth's massive oceans? The answer is a force we all know and experience every single day: gravity. We think of gravity as what keeps our feet planted firmly on the ground, but it's so much more than that. Everything that has mass exerts a gravitational pull, tiny pebble giant planet. The Earth's gravity holds the moon in its orbit, preventing it from flying off into space. But here's the amazing part. The moon pulls back. It's like a cosmic tug-of-war, and our planet's water is caught right in the middle. This pull from the moon drives our tides. Imagine the Earth as a big round ball covered in a blanket of water. As the moon orbits our planet, its gravity gently tugs on everything, the land, the water. Because water is a liquid, it's more flexible and moves more easily in response. Water on the side closest to the moon is pulled upward, creating a bulge. That bulge is a high tide, an invisible hand reaching across space, lifting the ocean. Now, here's the twist. You might think only the side facing the moon gets a high tide, but that's not the whole story. A high tide also happens on the exact opposite side at the same time. How can that be? As the moon pulls water toward it on the near side, it pulls the entire Earth slightly away from the water on the far side. That leaves the far side water behind, creating a second bulge. So we get two high tides simultaneously on opposite sides of the globe, all from this gravitational dance. It's a constant, predictable cycle. As the Earth spins, different places pass through the bulges each day. This is why most coastal locations experience two high tides and two low tides roughly every 24 hours and 50 minutes. That extra 50 minutes is because the moon is also moving in its orbit while Earth spins. It's a beautifully synchronized celestial motion, a powerful yet gentle force that has shaped our coastlines and the life within them for eons. It's nature's clock, working with perfect precision. Now that we understand the why behind the tides, let's look at what it actually looks like on the coast. Daily rise and fall of sea level is called high tide, low tide. High tide is when water is at its highest, reaching far up the beach or against pier pilings. Our location is passing through a gravitational bulge, a time of fullness and calm before the reversal. After the peak, the water begins to recede. This falling water is called outgoing tide, ebb tide. You can watch the shoreline grow as the water pulls back, revealing sand rocks, mud flats. This continues for about 6 hours until the water reaches its lowest point. That is low tide. At low tide, the water is furthest from shore, and areas that are usually deep may become walkable. It's a fascinating transformation. After the brief pause, the cycle reverses. Water advances back toward shore, the incoming tide, flood tide. While the moon is the star of the tidal show, it has a very important supporting actor, the sun. The sun is much, much larger than the moon, but about 400 times farther away. Its gravitational pull on tides is less than half the moon's. Still, the sun's influence is significant, and its position relative to the moon can amplify or dampen tides, creating distinct monthly tidal patterns anglers should know. Twice a month during the new moon, during the full moon, the Earth, moon, and sun line up. Their gravitational pulls combine, pulling the oceans in the same direction. That creates higher than average high tides and lower than average low tides. Those are called spring tides. The name isn't seasonal. It comes from an old word meaning to spring up. Spring tides produce the strongest tidal currents of the month. Conversely, during the first quarter and the third quarter, the sun and moon sit at right angles to Earth. Their forces work against each other. The sun tries to pull tides one way, the moon another. The gravitational pull of the moon and the sun sets the fundamental rhythm of the tides, creating a predictable, clockwork-like schedule. This is the baseline, the tide chart you can check online or in an old almanac. But anyone who's spent time on the water knows Mother Nature adds her own variations. Weather, especially wind and atmospheric pressure, can dramatically change water levels and currents on any given day. It can make a high tide even higher or keep a low tide from getting as low as predicted. Wind is the most obvious, powerful factor. A strong, sustained onshore wind, blowing from sea to land, can push water up against the coast. That can make a high tide arrive earlier, last longer, and reach much higher than the chart predicted. A strong offshore wind, from land out to sea, does the opposite. It can hold water back, delaying a high tide and preventing it from coming in as far. Barometric pressure matters too. It's the weight of the air pressing down on the ocean. High pressure systems, clear, calm weather, press down harder on the water's surface, slightly suppressing tide levels and making highs lower than predicted. We've talked a lot about what makes the water move, but now let's get to the most important part. Why do the fish care? The answer is simple and universal to all living things: food. For coastal fish, the movement of the tide is the single most important factor determining when and where they find their next meal. The currents from incoming and outgoing tides act like a giant conveyor belt, delivering food straight to them. This is so ingrained that their whole day follows the tidal cycle. Think from a fish's perspective. Incoming or flooding, tide brings in fresh, clean, often cooler ocean water. More importantly, it carries prey. Small bait fish, shrimp, crabs, other tasty morsels. Predator fish know this. They face into the current, positioning themselves strategically. Often they hide behind a rock, a bridge, piling an oyster bed. Then they wait in ambush while the moving water does the work, delivering a steady stream of food to their mouths. Ultimate energy-efficient feeding. While tides set the fundamental schedule for fish feeding, the daily weather adds another critical layer to the puzzle. Fish are incredibly sensitive to changes in their environment, and weather conditions can either trigger an aggressive bite or cause them to completely shut down, a condition anglers call lockjaw. One of the most significant factors is a change in barometric pressure. Many experienced anglers swear that the best fishing happens just before a cold front moves in, when the barometer is falling. This drop in pressure seems to signal to fish that a change is coming, prompting them to feed heavily. Cloud cover is another important variable to consider. On bright, sunny days, fish often seek shelter in deeper water or under structures like docks, bridges, or thick weed beds to avoid the intense light. They can be more wary and less willing to venture out into the open. However, an overcast or cloudy day provides a sort of camouflage for them. They feel more secure and are often found cruising in shallower water or roaming more freely, making them easier to target. A little bit of cloud cover can be an angler's best friend, especially during the middle of the day. Wind, as we discussed, directly affects the tides, but it also has its own influence on fish behavior. A light to moderate wind is often a good thing. Finally, don't discount the impact of rain. A light, steady rain can be fantastic for fishing. It cools the water surface, washes insects and other food into the water from the shoreline. We've covered a lot of ground, from the gravitational pull of the moon to the way a falling barometer can trigger a feeding frenzy. It might seem like a lot to remember, but you don't have to be a scientist to use this knowledge. Think of it as developing a new sense, an intuition for the water. You now have the framework to understand why the ocean behaves the way it does and how the fish respond to it. This is more than a collection of tips. It's a fundamental shift in how you approach fishing. Your new superpower is the ability to look at a tide chart and a weather forecast and see a story unfolding. You can predict where the currents will move, where the bait will concentrate, and where the predator fish will be waiting. Plan your trips not just around work, but around the optimal feeding windows nature provides. You'll no longer be casting your line blindly and just hoping for the best. Instead, you'll be making informed decisions, putting yourself in the right place at the right time. The next time you plan a fishing trip, I encourage you to try this. Start by looking at the tide chart a week in advance. On the day of your trip, stand by the water for a moment before you even make a cast. Good luck and tight lines.